overshot. Welcome back, Future Exhibits. Yes, I just called you that. You guys did ask for this one. This one is the gas mask rundown. I'll figure out a better title at some point. This is going to be a rundown of all of the Western and mostly American masks. Actually, all of the masks I have here are American except for one, which is an American design copied by... We'll get to that. This isn't in any particular order, but it is mostly in like descending order of masks that I know the most about. Because, face it, I'm a nerd, and this is kind of all my... spoiler. Kind of my entire personality, so... without any ado, let's get right into it. To most of you OIF vets, and anyone between 1992 and 2008, when this was still the main gas masks, this is, ladies and gentlemen, the M40 Pro Mask. This was the... I'll cut that out, maybe, if you behave. Listen, good subscribers get editing for Christmas. Bad subscribers get, maybe I'll start doing parodies of music. I don't know. This was the standard United States gas mask from, I believe, 1992 until 2008 when the M50 was adopted. I do not have one of those. I will probably never own one of those. The design for the M40 originates kind of in the early to mid 80s, because the gas mask that preceded this, the M17, which I will get to in a little bit, I have like 4 or 5, I have 5 of them. That's a bit much. The M17 was adopted a few decades earlier and was starting to show its age significantly, so there was a push to adopt a new mask, and the M40 kind of sprang out of that. Now, before the M40 was actually adopted, there was the XM40, which was basically this, except, well, it retained the form factor of the M40, but it used pretty much all M17 hardware, meaning an M17 faceplate, and I believe the actual lenses were off an M17, which it's one of the rarest gas masks you'll ever find out there, which is actually not surprising because it never got past prototype stage. And if you, the M40 depicted in the best-selling game Half-Life is kind of a mix between the two, but it's mostly M40. Right now I have, of course, the outer skin on this and the sunglasses outserts. I'm struggling with words today. Good luck. And the reason for this second skin is actually one of the design flaws of the M40. The actual mask is this green part down here. This whole thing is the actual gas mask. But in testing in the early to mid 90s, they discovered that blood agents especially would heavily affect the actual mask itself, which is made out of, I believe the mask itself is a butyl rubber, butyl, and it would make it blister up and deteriorate very, very quickly. So the mask would start falling apart after a decent amount of time. Originally, the M40 was adopted with a metal, or I believe the original C2 filter, which was a Canadian-designed 40mm NATO threading filter. Those ones actually contain hexavalent chromium and are very, very, very not good to breathe in, unfortunately. They're fun to look at, though. Let's face it, the M40 with the actual metal filter, I'll try to throw one up on screen, is very much a vibe. They look really, really freaking cool, but the later C2A1 filters, which this has, do not contain chromium. Therefore, they are not going to be a super health risk unless you're wearing this for, multiple months straight. Once again, shout out to the OIF vets. I'm sorry to you guys. That couldn't have been fun. I do not envy you. I don't think most people do, actually. The M40, as it was adopted at a time of great, updating and change for United States chemical protective gear. And when it was adopted, the suit that was currently in service was the BDO, which had replaced the earlier CPOG, or Chemical Protective Overgarment. The BDO, which stands for Battle Dress Overgarment, which is basically a updated version of the CPOG. It did not have an integrated hood, so every single mask, M40 included, would have to have a external hood that would go on the mask that would cover up your whole head and everything, because obviously it's not a helmet type mask like the Soviets have. And that, it worked for a while. I mean, obviously it was current technology, and it existed that way up until the late 90s, when the BDO itself was replaced by what is known as the JS list, which is Joint Service Lightweight Integrated Suit Technologies, I believe. It was basically an entire move to update and standardize on a new NBC suit, and it's most commonly pronounced as just the J list or JS list, or just J lists without the T, because I mean, it's, nobody wants to say Joint Service Integrated Lightweight Suit Technologies all the time, because that would get really old.
So sorry to interject, but I feel I should actually mention that early models of the J list did actually not have a hood. Early on in the J list, well, career, I guess,
The J list was issued as it was, without a integrated hood that actually was attached to the suit. So the actual M40 hood at the time did serve a purpose at the time, during the early to late mid 90s. After that, they completely got rid of the mask hood, which, you know, now served no purpose. So still technically right, but yeah, I felt I should add that bit of information. You're welcome. Anyways, I'm gonna fuck off. But yeah, the J list, or the JS list, had a integrated hood on it, which I actually have one up here. I will get to that in possibly a separate video. I'm not sure. Maybe, if you guys want that. With that came the removal of the actual hood, which I believe is... I know homie in the comments might know the actual designation, but I believe that's the M6 hood. I could be wrong. I'm usually wrong. Don't take my word on it until that homie confirms that this had the M6 hood. Yeah. This is an M40A1, which was adopted. I cannot quite remember. It was in the late 90s. I believe it was in 1997. A lot of people argue over what the A1 version of an M40 actually is, and I will tell you right now, the A1 was basically the move to get rid of the hood, obviously, which it was already removable. It was basically just a gas mask hood, much like an M17, but it didn't have like the eye rings and the mouthpiece assembly ring. So that way it was basically just a hood with one big hole that would go around the entire mask. And so the A1 got rid of the hood, and it changed up the oral nasal cup in there, as you can see. Let me grab a light. Boom. It changed out the oral nasal cup to a much softer butyl rubber, and made it much more pleasant to wear, made it a little bit more breathable on the inside. I know a gas mask being breathable sounds real funny. Yeah, that was basically the entirety of the M40A1 update. It was very small, and it was really the only update that the M40 really went through. Also, to anybody that owns an M40 and wants to stage it correctly, pull the harness up on the front like so, and when you actually need to don it, you know, drop your helmet, slap it on your face, and pull up. I'm not going to do that right now because I have this tightened all the way down so it will fit on my stupid head, and I do not want to tear the ever-living hell out of this harness. That would suck. Because M40 masks by themselves are kind of spendy nowadays. They run between 100 and 175 bucks, depending on if you have the full kit or not. Yeah, M40 is a fantastic mask. It is a great surplus option there. Filters are still 100% readily available. Some of them are starting to show their age. They're starting to wear down a little bit, but if you get a newer one that was made past like 2000, ones before that are largely collector's items. They'll still work. Make no mistake about that. But obviously try to get newer equipment. Nobody actually wants to pay, like, I think it's like the $400 for like new mirror safety, whatever, equipment. But EM40 will work for you, and that is something I can promise. Just don't come after me legally if you end up getting gassed, because I cannot in any way afford that. I got too much of this shit to buy. Also, one quick thing about the lenses: there is 4 different lenses that are made. There's one that is a clear outsert, that is just to keep it from the actual gas mask lenses from getting scuffed and scratched up and whatever. There is the darkened ones, which are they're basically just sunglasses. There is a ballistic lens, which have a very slight brown tint to them, and they are supposed to stop very, very, very light shrapnel. I haven't seen a whole lot of those. I've been told a lot. I have seen a picture of one once, but it was in Natick testing, and I know they entered service because they had a whole formal NSN number and everything. If you can find one of those, that's cool. And the last one, which, well, right up here on the helmet, you might be able to guess, is the laser lenses. The laser lenses came out at a time and were really a product of the 80s and 90s, when everybody thought that in the future of warfare there was going to be a hell of a lot more lasers than ended up being a problem. So if you Half-Life players have seen the Heku soldiers, yes, they have M40s with the laser lenses. They are incredibly hard to find for anything resembling a fair price nowadays, as if they ever were. And if you happen to have a pair and want to sell them, hi, I'd like to introduce you to my bank account. That would be great. I have a ring of gas masks around my feet right now. Actually, one of the most iconic masks of all time, and my multiple versions of it. And this is only 3 of them. I'm currently missing 2 of them. But anyways, as some of you may be able to tell, this right here is the M17, this one being an A2. The M17 was adopted in 1959 as a replacement for the earlier M9 gas mask, as well as the M3 and M5, which were being phased out of service. They were still definitely around in decent numbers. You'll see pictures of National Guard at Kent State wearing a couple of M3s. I believe I saw one M5, and it's mostly M9s, but that's besides the point. The M17 it doesn't use external filters. It uses what's basically known as pork chop filters, because they're in the shape of a pork chop, kind of. The word wouldn't be semi-elliptical, but it's along those lines. It's basically like a really flattened out, curvy triangle. You get the idea, and you can probably just look it up or whatever. The M17 saw service all the way through Vietnam, where it was used pretty heavily by tunnel rats when they would pump a Viet Cong's, spider hole or tunnels or whatever full of CS gas or more deadly things. And of course, their biggest claim to fame is being used in the 1991 Gulf War, which is a vibe. And here, let me grab one without a hood. This one is, wait, no. This one has a hood. This is kind of my work M17. It's beautiful. The carrier is all screwed up. The one that I dropped used to be my work one until I tried pulling it off, or I tried pulling it off with the hood on while I had a flak vest on, and it ripped the hell out of one of the shoulder straps, which hurt. It hurt me so bad. This M17 right here, pretty standard carrier. You have your thigh strap and your leg strap. Goes around your thigh, goes around your waist, and you're good to go. Sits right on the hip. This one is, well, a little story. I picked this one up at a gun show a few years back for about $50, which is that's a bit expensive for an M17 without the full kit and whatever, and not being like a newer one or whatever. But this one is actually named, and the last name at least, is pretty intriguing. Captain R.E. Kennedy, 04031321, which I believe is his service number. 205th Military Intelligence Detachment, APO 79, U.S. Forces. I have attempted to get in contact with the 205th Military Intelligence, and APO, I believe, APO 79 was, I believe, a U.S. unit stationed in South Korea, or at least in area of operations, somewhat like that. And you can see that pretty clearly right there. Maybe you can't see it clearly because I'm a terrible, terrible YouTuber. I'm not even a YouTuber. I'm just doing this for shits and giggles. Anyways, this one's actually a size small, so I'm not going to wear it. But this is what your basic M17 looks like. Massive lenses. You got your whole facial assembly. This is actually an M17A1, or yeah, I believe this is an actual A1. The A2 model actually added in the drinking hose, or it might have been the A2 or A1. It's one of those. I'm banking on it. Yeah, the M17 has... It's actually continued on in numerous countries as different copied models. I know the Czechs, they copied it with the M10 and the M10M, which is almost a direct copy, except for they changed up the faceplate, different filters, and it takes their own proprietary hood. Bulgaria has the PDE-1 version. Poland has the MP4. Korea has a version which is also called the M17, which those are very, very hard to get. And Japan also copied them for their Type 3 gas mask. So they have seen very, very widespread usage, which is not surprising. It's a great gas mask design. They're lightweight. They're bulky in a making you look like a neckbeard sort of way, because, you know, it's all down here. You can look down a hell of a lot better in one of these than you can in an M50. I have worn an M50 for about 4 hours straight at a friend's place, and those are a bulky, plasticky... I don't know what the fuck they were doing with that. I don't know. I talked to a lot of guys that have had to wear them professionally, and they're not a huge fan of it either. I mean, I know they're lightweight and they're fairly durable, but I'm not saying go back to this, but I am saying like the M40 might have been possibly better in a way. Although the M40 had its own downfalls, the skin and whatever. But yeah, the M17 saw very, very distinguished service. If you wish to see a whole shitload of them in one place, go ahead and check out the 1995 movie Outbreak, which is very, very good movie. It has Dustin Hoffman, Cuba Gooding Jr., a younger Kevin Spacey, who was no less of a smartass. Yeah. Also, one more thing, the sizes on most US masks go large, medium, small, and then there's some masks have an extra small. The M17 actually did have an extra small, and the M40 didn't. So what the US military ended up doing was keeping the extra small M17 in service well into, I want to say at least 2002? At least. That's... put an asterisk there. It might have gone as far as 2005, but I'm not 100% certain, because they had to keep those in until they could get an extra small M40, or later M40A1, actually into service, because that's a really small goddamn mask. The M4 or the M17 was also issued with a winterization kit, which would have two basically warming pads right up on the cheek filter, right up on the cheek inhale valves, which would make it so you're not scorching your lungs with frozen air, which is a very, very nice prospect to think about. Try not to freeze or burn your lungs. It doesn't sound like a great time. But anyways, that is the M17. Right, it has occurred to me, the sources unbeknownst to you, that the A1 actually added the drinking tube and a resuscitation tube, which was a attachment that went right up on the front, so that way if somebody passed out and you need to give them CPR in an NBC environment, you could do that. The A2 removed the resuscitation tube. That was pretty much it. The A2 was a very minor incremental upgrade, but that's most of what you'll find, which is very, very nice. Yeah. Am I right? Cat demo. I'm stupid. Hold on. One thing I forgot to add was actually a tutorial on how to use the drinking tube with your NBC cap. United States GIA canteens often came with a cap such as this, which would make it so you could actually use your canteen with your mask's drinking tube. It is right down here. On the M40, it is down right below the exhale assembly. Basically just pull it out, and it's a nice little hose. And what you do is you take that hose and you take its little attachment, stab it right into the top of your canteen. It's a nice little rubber gasket. And on the M40, if I can remember how to do this, you have a little hose right down at the bottom of your oronasal cup, and you put your lips on it, and, well, bottoms up. This tastes like ass, by the way. So, yeah, that is your drinking tube. Very, very useful piece of equipment. Because the last thing you want to do while wearing a goddamn gas mask is be dehydrated. How do I know? Because, well, my dad was in Iraq in '03, and when you're stuck in one of these for weeks on end, hydrate, I guess. Anyways, moving on. This up is actually a mask, or two, which are actually fairly rare. This is gonna knock some socks off, but it's actually two different masks. Well, okay, it's the same mask, but you get the point. Inside both of these is the M3-10 A1-6. It's a very, very complicated gas mask designation, and I can't tell you what all it means, unfortunately. However, I will tell you that these were adopted in 1942 as a replacement for the M2 gas mask, which turned out to be very bulky, unwieldy, had a big ass canister hanging down from the bottom. Wasn't exactly the best gas mask design. I would love to find one someday, but that can be held off. I have two examples of the M3-10 A1-6, and one of them is the carriers are different, but they're the exact same mask. This one was issued, and this one is factory new. Factory new as of 1943, I believe, 43 or 44. It's one of those. Beautiful condition. I bought this one for way too much. First up, I will talk about the issued one, and I will say that yes, these do contain asbestos. Lots of masks from back then do contain asbestos. This might look kind of familiar as just being pretty much the basic face piece for most US masks of the era of World War II and into the early 50s. And these do have two different canisters between mine. This one actually has the rectangular canister, the other one has the cylindrical one. And these, if they do hold up to time, they are don't rely on one of these. This is a museum piece. Do not rely on this to save your life. However, if you're LARPing and you just want to have some fun, you can more than well use one of these. And I will point out, they do not have a oral nasal cup, as you can kind of see, barely. So these will fog up, so you would need to get an anti-fog stick, which is basically like a very light wax sort of stuff, and you can put that on the inside of your lenses and it will keep moisture from accumulating on the lenses, therefore preventing fog.
Did I mention these have asbestos? Okay, good. Overall, these are actually really comfortable. I believe this one's a medium, so it's a little small on me. But overall, it's a very, very cool mask.
And the way the carrier actually works on these, because back in the day, they didn't have a whole lot of hip carriers. What you would do with these is either wear it on your side with, you know, as a shoulder bag, because, well, that was just the style of the time, or just wear it around your neck, on your chest, and if you need a mask,
you got one. Unfortunately, it's not the most ergonomic thing because, congratulations, you can't look down without it ripping your face off. But these are very much a drippy, yes, I said drippy, they're a vibe. These have a very, you know, like early Adam Punk kind of.
It was the late 40s and early 50s. These are very just demonstrative of the times, to say the least. And these ones do indeed actually use the old lift the dot type fastener. Yes, I said lift the dot. Here, to illuminate this. That's too much. What you have is a little kind of spring-loaded tab inside of this little metal fastener. And what you're going to do is put it on top of one of these little posts, and it just snaps right on. I believe these are still used in some equipment on some militaries sometimes. Soviets got a hold of this and used it for fucking everything. But overall, nice mask, fairly water-resistant carrier. I love the M3s. Both of these were one of my grail masks. I found that one on eBay. It was like 175 bucks, and immediately I was like, this is mine, and nobody else is gonna get it. Keep in mind, that's the issued one, and it was already in fairly nice condition. This one, different carrier. You have one to go around your body and one around your neck, so that way it wouldn't be swinging all over. This one, I'm gonna get a bit closer for. 3 lift the dot fasteners. Look at that. That right there is a thing of beauty. It has the original retaining cord to keep the shape keeper. I'm not exactly sure of a technical term. These are this mask is gorgeous, and I say that a lot about a lot of items I own, but this is especially beautiful. And the data stamp is there. This was manufactured in July of 1942, so a little bit earlier. So this would actually make it one of the earliest. I never realized that this would make a first-year production mask, and very, very early in the year. As you can see, both of these are the gray model. There is a rarer one that is in black rubber. I haven't seen many of those out and about, but I know they are out there in some ways. There is another rare version that has it uses the newer C15 designation exhale valve instead of this M8 exhale valve. The C15 would later go on to be used on the M9, I believe. So just keep that in mind. I might be able to find a picture of one of those. I'll try to throw that up if I can. I'm throwing up a lot today. And as I mentioned, this has the cylindrical canister. So let's see if I can get it to shine. Look at that, it's so pretty. 567.5 grams. No rattling, no spilling. It's safe. Also, I don't know what this white material is. Maybe that's the asbestos, and maybe I'm gonna die. I was about to scream tuberculosis, but no, tuberculosis is not caused by asbestos. Mesothelioma. I don't know, man. I just do this for fun. can because I'm addicted. Guilty as charged. Yeah, beautiful mask. I love these. That's really all I had on that one. There's not a whole lot of really good information on U.S. World War II masks, unfortunately. I mean, there's enough to get you started and to tell you things about the mask, maybe production dates, where they might have served, different versions. But other than that, there's just kind of a gray area. And that is demonstrated no better than by the next one, the M3 diaphragm mask, which I would say is one of the coolest looking masks ever. And this one is loose. I don't have a carrier. The filter is completely missing. To those familiar with Snuffleupagus from Sesame Street, Snuffy. Let's see. These were introduced in 1941 with the early versions had a metal, circular exhale valve assembly and voice emitter. This one has the later plastic one with a translucent plastic voice emitter shield thing behind it. I'm not sure what the technical term is. It's very strange on the inside of this. Let's see. So this would make this an A1 version, which is pretty damn cool. This one's also kind of falling apart. Let's see. I might be forgetting something. It's not exactly clear when these actually exited service, because I'm not sure if they saw a whole lot of super wide use to begin with, because obviously there was no real. Okay, there wasn't a nuclear threat until the very end, but there was no real biological, chemical, whatever threat for the most part, unless you were in mainland China and fighting Japan. But you didn't really have a gas mask for most of that. One interesting fact about this mask in particular is, if anybody here has played Black Ops 1 and stared that in the face, this mask was actually the inspiration for the Spetsnaz gas masks in the chemical on Rebirth Island, or on Zavodstadinya. I can't remember, but it's Rebirth Island in Russian, or during the mission Rebirth, which is very cool. They didn't end up actually using a Russian gas mask for that. Very strange. These were also manufactured by Goodyear, aka Blimps and Tires. So, yeah, I don't have a whole lot of information on these because there isn't a whole lot of information on these, unfortunately, because they look incredibly cool and they're just kind of a vibe. And very strangely, their inhale valve is kind of double set down here. As you can see, it's two tubes that meet up into one and go out to your filter. It's weird. I've never seen a mask that splits the inhale valve. It's weird. And your exhale valve is right down here. Voice emitter, lenses, etc., etc. I love this mask. It looks very nice. Maybe I'll find a complete one someday. Second to last, these are incredibly cheap. Usually you can find these for like $25 because they made tens of thousands of them. Actually, hundreds of thousands. This right here is the M1A2 non-combatant mask. These were made for both civilian usage on military bases, or basically just kind of general use wherever that a military presence was, but they weren't getting actually military masks like the M3 diaphragm or the M3-10s. And these are one of the simplest masks you'll ever see. So this one is lately dented right about there, so I'm kind of worried about that. Also, they do have the same exhale valve as the M3, which is kind of cool. For what it's worth, at least. You have two big lenses kind of just built in right there, as well as a big, big can stuck right on your face. These do contain asbestos. However, it is a very, very, very small amount, and they are primarily activated charcoal as opposed to deactivated charcoal, which is in most other masks and whatever. So it's a interesting caveat of it. This might spell doom for everybody in my house, but there's a lot of dust in here, and I'm going to blow it out. Because I want to wear it. Oh, you just love the feeling of that 1940s dust. These generally tend to age pretty poorly, unfortunately. One of the biggest problems with this mask is the facepiece itself, which is made out of basically like a kind of, I think it's like a rubberized canvas material, which unfortunately makes it so if it dries out, it will take a shape and it will hold a shape and make it very hard to wear and maintain a seal. Other than that, the filters themselves can degrade. If they're not properly stored, they will rust. And the actual elastic in the bands themselves generally tend to fall apart pretty bad. With that said, the actual carrier on them is a nice little, just small bag with a shoulder strap, and these are actually really useful for just carrying stuff around. I've used these as a, I'm not going to call it a purse, but I will call it like just kind of a little travel bag, and it's really useful. I'm not sure how much of any of that you could hear, but I hope you heard some of it. Otherwise, yeah, the M1A2s are readily available. I mean, they're definitely out there. I mean, there's probably still civil defense bunkers sitting out there with these stocking the shells in the thousands. They were just manufactured for a very, very long time, and they were used all over the place. These were deemed obsolete in 1954, which, for obvious reasons, it's not exactly that great of a design to begin with. This is mostly just make a smattering of them, throw them to the civilian populace, and just hope they survive in their shitty dugout bunkers in their backyard, which is kind of analogous to the Soviet GP5 in a way, even though the GP5 is far and ahead a better design than this. But the GP5 also came around like 15 years after this, so you know, there's this isn't bad for like 1942, 43 when these came around. And yes, I do have 2 of these, which is very nice. The carriers on these kind of remind me of like a flower planter, because they take on a very strange shape after a while. It's just this little conical looking thing. The other one I have, how much did I pay for this? I paid $50, World War II M1A2-1-1 non-combatant gas mask. And this one is actually pretty cool, if I can open it, because it has the original packing paper inside that will help it retain its shape. Not that this thing will ever retain a shape. Both of these are made for a medium adult. I am not a medium adult, but I do have a relatively normal sized head. So yeah, the M1A2s, they're fun to collect. It's a very simple mask, and gotta love those markings. US non-combatant gas mask M1A2-1-1, medium adult, property of the US government, OCD, the Office of Civil Defense. To the person that's still hopefully listening, I know you just got excited at those letters. Don't even try to deny it. I'm getting way too meta with this. Yay! Now, the last one. If I can find it. Shit. I found it. Yay. This mask is not American. However, it is entirely based on an American design. And don't look at that. Be good. Wait your turn. Woogada boogada. First, I'll point out that those are some big goddamn threads, right? That's because this is a Finnish M61. I will say right off the bat that the M61 and the M9 that's based on, the M9 is what replaced the M3 and the other M3, go figure, and the M4 and M5, but you don't see a whole lot of those. This, instead of using 40mm threads, as is most commonly used nowadays, you know, 40mm Ghost, 40mm NATO, This uses 60 millimeter threads, which, is it better? Is it worse? It's what they did. These were loaned out to absolutely everybody. We made an unfathomable amount of M9s, and you can still buy them still sealed in their original production packaging, and they're sealed containers, which you actually need like a fish can opening key to open up. I will say these are made of very soft rubber that seals really nice. They are very comfortable. They generally tend to be in phenomenal. I'm falling apart today. Phenomenal shape, and they're easy to get on. They have a really nice oral nasal cup, so once you get them on, you tighten them up. It's a very, very comfortable gas mask that you can wear for an extended period of time. You do have this massive nose though, so you know, obvious jokes aside, it's a fantastic gas mask. I have zero complaints about these. Not that I could complain. I've never been exposed to a chemical weapon, thank fuck. They also look kind of lopsided though, unfortunately. I mean, you got the whole nose going this way, but the eyes going that way. It's very strange to wear, but they look nice. They're functional. I mean, if you want to use one, it's just kind of like a general purpose dust mask. I'd say you could go ahead and do that. That would be perfectly acceptable. And with these being as common as they are, filters are still more than available. I mean, when I bought this one, I think I got this one on Sportsman's Guide. It came with a brand new filter. These, interestingly, if you are familiar with phones, were made by Nokia, which is actually pretty cool. And does it say Nokia on it? Yes, it does. Right on that tiny little marking right there. It says Nokia. You can't see it, but take my word for it. And it's just a very small, compact mask. I mean, this is smaller than a football, and it has a very nice carrier, which is, you know, kind of par for the course. I'd say it's hard to make a bad carrier, but then again, if you've seen some of the Eastern European ones I have, it's really easy to fuck up a carrier. But this is just your standard little roller right there. Put the clasp on, and take your, I think it's like a locking tab, pull it up, push it through there, and when you need to open it, you just pull this through, and the whole thing opens up. Very simple, very easy, very intuitive, and I really can't complain about it. I can complain, however, that I don't have an American one yet, but I will get one of those at some point. That concludes pretty much all the gas masks. Okay, not all of them. I have a lot. I have a lot. I have plenty of Soviet and con block masks to still get through. If you guys want to see this, depending on how this one goes. I absolutely love gas masks. It's kind of the first thing I really started collecting. I'm up to like 20 of them now, maybe a little less, maybe a little more. They're cheap and easy and accessible, and still kind of niche. They're not like rifles and helmets and whatever, so you know, nobody actually likes wearing gas masks unless you're weird like me and aforementioned person. But yeah, gas masks are a very, very fun, exciting way to get into surplus, because you know, for most of them the information is readily available, except for that. You know, it's easy to collect full kits for them. You can get winterization kits for M17s. You can get waterproofing kits for M40s. You can get anti-fog sticks for Soviet masks, which come in little cool Bakelite containers. I'll show you guys that in the next one, because they're very... the Soviets were dumb, but they're not stupid. Yeah, gas masks. Gotta love them. Obviously, if you're gonna get into it, I would not say start with like... I wouldn't say like immediately go after an M40 or some World War II crap. Get like an M17, maybe a GP5, a PBF, something like that. Start with like the helmet type Soviet mask. They're more than available. Figure out your sizing. If you're gonna wear a helmet type mask for anything, get a fucking haircut. Even my hair, as relatively short as it is, it makes it a real pain in the ass to put on any of those masks up there. Taking care of most gas masks, especially if they're made more than about 40 years ago. Definitely give them a good clean, because first off, rubber rot sucks. It will destroy your masks after a while if you keep wearing them. They'll tear apart and whatever. Make sure you know what filters you're using. You can tell going off of markings, year of production, where they're from. So that's definitely something to take into consideration. And of course, I'd really just say collect what you find is interesting. There is really no right answer to collecting surplus, especially gas masks, because it's really an acquired taste. Like me, I hate most all modern masks because they either look all alike or they're just big plasticky mess of masks. But all of this crap is just very unique. They all look different. They all served at different times but had the same idea going on. There's a lot of personality you can get behind these, which I think is absolutely fascinating. I really got to stop throwing that around. That wasn't a cheap mask for what it was. Yeah. And if you happen to have an M45, reach out, and I'm willing to pay you a couple corn dogs for it, because I might have to sell it to somebody for a couple corn dogs that has been searching for an M45. Again, you know who you are, and I'm shopping around for your stuff. At the same time, I'm also begging for things on YouTube, so go figure, right? Anyways, this has been Avis Prime telling you about gas masks and the such, and be good. Behave yourselves. I'll know. I'm Santa. I'm also a liar.